You can't fuck up as a woman because they don't forget it, because you're already memorable being a woman. So a guy's mistake generally has a little less consequences than a woman. How do you command respect without getting the title bitch?
Welcome to the Manifesting Millions podcast, where we talk about manifestation, money, and practical guidance to creating your dream reality. My name is Amy Van Meel, and I am an experienced coach and transformation guide, obsessed with helping you get out of your own way and create a life that blows your mind each day you wake up. My goal in this podcast is to share practical manifestation, self-awareness, and growth techniques in real talk conversations. So if you're ready to massively transform your reality, your finances, your relationships, and your overall enjoyment of life, you are in the right place. I am absolutely delighted that you're here with me today, babe. Let's get into it. Well, hello and welcome back to the Manifesting Millions podcast. I'm so thrilled that you are here with me today. Thank you for pressing play and tuning in. And oh my goodness, your actions are about to be rewarded in a really big way. I have an absolutely stellar conversation coming for you today. I am so excited for it. Today is actually only part one. So I will introduce who my special guest is in what is, I suppose, the second episode of the Women of Intrigue series. So you may have caught my interview with Leanne Pinnell back in December. She was our first Woman of Intrigue. Today's Woman of Intrigue is... it's fucking juicy. I mean, they are women who intrigue me, which is why they come on the podcast. I will introduce her in just a moment, but I want to talk about a few things that you're going to hear in today's episode. This particular woman had a career in motorsports, including amateur motorbike racing. That would make more sense. So we're going to talk about how she got into motorsports, why ignorance is bliss and lets you open doors that you never thought possible. This is a really, really fucking good one. How my special guest nullified the strikes against us, in particular her stature, her race, and her gender. How do you command respect without getting the title bitch? Oh my gosh, I feel like all of us want to hear that part, right? A really powerful way to frame suggestions that land, how to reach out to leaders many levels above you and secure the meeting, and why our special guest today was told that she needed to turn down the Canada. Oh my gosh, this is just a smattering of what you are about to uncover in this interview. I cannot wait for you here to oh my goodness. See, this is how excited I am. I cannot wait for you to hear the rest. Let me just give you a quick introduction as to who is jumping on, and then we're going to roll the tape. Jessica Soodeen is a keynote speaker, an empathy architect, and a motorsport engineer and driver coach, an executive leadership consultant, and a published author. She first became interested in motorsports after winning motorcycle lessons at a fundraiser for the Formula SAE team at the University of Calgary. She continued improving her skills and eventually started racing. A defining moment in Jessica's life was deciding to combine her career and her hobby, which led her to Spain to earn a master's in motorsport race engineering. Staying true to her dream of working trackside in Europe, she even turned down a prestigious aerodynamics job position in an office setting. Her experience as a trackside engineer filled her cup, and although race days were intense, they were also exciting. She returned to Canada back to a corporate life where she grew through the ranks. All this experience is the secret sauce to her dynamically unique and vitalizing keynote presentations and work with corporate teams. She now dedicates herself to speaking and working with teams on relational skills such as emotional and social intelligence. Say hello to Jessica Soodeen. Okay, my loves, I am so excited for you to hear part 1 of the conversation with Jess. Real quick before I officially hit the roll tape button, I just want to give a little quick note. We were using different microphones than I typically use. It's actually the microphone I used to use before I got this new fancy one. It does pick up more in terms of like you'll hear in the episode. It sounds a little echoey. When we get excited and enthusiastic, it might sound like it's sort of blowing the mic out a little bit. It's partly because we were sitting close together and close to our microphones. So I just want to give you a little heads up in advance. The sound quality is not as awesome as the last however many episodes that I've had published coming out, but the conversation is 100% worth it. So apologies in advance if you're like, fuck, I have to put my volume up and down constantly. It shouldn't be. Once we get through the intro, it should be fine. And then we hit conversational levels. I just wanted to front that for you. So let's do it. Enjoy the conversation. Jess, welcome to the Manifesting Millions podcast.
Thank you, Amy.
I'm so fucking excited that you're here.
I didn't know that we could drop F-bombs.
Yes, we can. Every single episode in this podcast is rated explicit. So speak freely. I want this to be a very free, open conversation for our listeners tuning in. Just a heads up, Jess and I have been sitting here for like approaching an hour and a half having the most wonderful conversation, and we're like, we should hit record. So I can tell you that today's conversation is going to be super fucking juicy. I am so excited to bring Jess on. I'm going to give you a few titles to give you a sense of a little bit of what Jess has done. I don't want to say who Jess is because these are just titles, but to give an example, when I first met Jess, I only heard that she used to race motorcycles. And I was like, oh my God, I need to know this woman. So I said, can you come on the podcast? Because I think we'd have a great conversation. And then as I was getting my research ready for the podcast, I was like, oh my God, if I had known who Jess was before I asked her, I don't know that I would have had the nerve to ask her. So let me just like share a little bit of Jess's history. So Jess has a bachelor's in mechanical engineering.
Yep.
Started motorcycle racing after winning motorcycle lessons, which I love.
Correct.
You have been a motorcycle racer, a tuner, a mechanic, engineer, and more. You were the vice president of engineering with a global company, the director of engineering with a global company, a race engineer and drive coach, a mechanical designer. You are currently the president of O'Leary Mech Design, the vice president of the Calgary Motorcycle Road Racing Association, and a compassion and empathy architect.
Wow, yeah. That.
Small potatoes. So,
and in my spare time.
Really. Talk to us a little bit, so I love the fact that you got into motorcycle racing just because you won motorcycle lessons.
Yeah, and the irony is all over the place for that because I won the motorcycle lessons at a fundraiser for the university's Formula SAE team. So Formula SAE is the university having a little open wheel race car, and they do all the aerodynamics, suspension, blah, blah, blah. So I had a bunch of friends that were on the team. So it was totally rigged that I, quote unquote, won motorcycle lessons. I was going to win it regardless.
Okay.
And the fact that I was the one that went into motorsports afterwards, I was not on that team when I won the motorcycle lessons.
So I'm very curious, did you have an interest in motorsports before?
No.
Not at all.
Zero. I didn't watch F1. I didn't watch MotoGP. My brother rode motorcycles, so I was on the back a couple of times with him, and I felt safe with him, but also terrified not being in control. And we had a little spill on the way to high school one morning on a motorcycle. So I'd already been in a motorcycle kind of single vehicle accident. And when I won the motorcycle lessons, I was 24, 26, something. Yeah.
And you just caught the bug.
Caught the bug. So I won the motorcycle lessons. I thought, and I told my mom at the time, because she was working as a burns nurse. Ooh. So motorcycle crashes are all like burns.
Yeah.
And I told my mom at the time, I don't have an intention to buy a bike right now or anything, but I just want to try these lessons. So I went, and Trevor Deck was my instructor, and he since then has created his own motorcycle school, Too Cool Motorcycle School. amazing.
Cool.
And I taught for him in advanced courses later on. But when I started in motorcycles, I had no clue what sort of trajectory that winning motorcycle lessons was going to put my life on. Like, I just gave myself goosebumps.
It's amazing. I love that, like, it was not even on your radar at all.
At all. Not even a little bit. Like, it wasn't even a hobby that I was interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hadn't dated anybody that, like, had a motorcycle. I mean, your brother had a motorcycle, but, like, that was kind of it.
That was it. And then when I started riding, what I did was what everyone should do if they're riding motorcycles. I started going to track days. So I started going to the Race City Speedway. It's closed now, but I started going to track days to learn my bike and to figure out, okay, if I have to brake really hard, let's do it in a safe environment on a racetrack where everyone's going in the same direction, everyone's wearing leathers, there's an ambulance there for us.
Right.
Just to learn, and I'm, all of 5'2", maybe.
Yes.
Maybe.
Jess is tiny.
Yeah. And so, like, touching the ground on my bike and trying to get comfortable with it. And it was going to track days that someone said, you're kind of slow as molasses in January, but you're really comfortable in traffic. You're very consistent. You don't get freaked out. You don't change your lines when there's bikes around you. You'd probably be a good racer. So I ran home and I ripped out the headlights, took off the signal lights, and I'm like, signed up for the race school. And yeah.
That's amazing. And then how long was the gap, like, from the lessons and doing those track days into actually stepping in professionally as a racer?
Yeah, so as an amateur, but yeah, stepping into being on that track with other people is 4 years.
Wow.
4 years, yeah. And I didn't grow up with dirt bikes, zero.
So you started racing at 28.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that because
29.
28,
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, so much of this is something that I know I've struggled with, and I want to talk about this very clearly because I feel like I'm not the only one, that so many origin stories that we hear is, like, I was selling lemonade when I was like 6 and I was doing like this. So I
turned into an entrepreneur.
Correct. Like I still do at times, like, really struggle with, well, am I really an entrepreneur if, like, I didn't have my own business when I was young, or,
Yeah.
And I think sports and all avenues of life are the same, that we see these examples of people who are like, I knew when I was 7 years old that I was going to, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know. I wanted to be a princess when I was 7 years old. I didn't know any different.
The only thing I knew when I was 7 is that if I ever got married, it was going to be in jeans, and I made that happen.
Oh my God, I love it.
But yeah, no, it's totally true. And the flip side of that is when you get into a sport, and this happened fast forward in Europe, we'll get to that part, but it happened when I started racing motorcycles, even started riding. Then I started watching motorcycle racing. But I had no idea of the history. Right. And you know what kind of cred? Like, it turns you into a zero negative credibility when you're just hanging out with a bunch of people. You're all racing motorcycles. They start talking about, oh, remember in 90-something when that was like the best? You have to watch that race to learn how to do this type of passing, or whatever the context was.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there blank. Oh, I was doing skiing then, or snowboarding, or whatever it was. I didn't life. Yeah, I didn't have that background. And when you jump into a brand new realm of something that you don't have the background for, it's really eye-opening.
Yeah.
But I think I handled it really well as well. I just said, well, I'm a doer, not a watcher, so you educate me as opposed to judging me. Thank you.
Yes.
So you just turn it around.
Oh. Jess is my soul sister. We've been meant to meet, because I would be the same. I would be the same thing. So, okay, your degree is in mechanical engineering.
Yes.
What was your intent? Because we know obviously racing wasn't your intent, and your career was built in racing. So
that's right.
What were you intending?
My intent was to mix a couple of the facets of my life together.
Okay.
So in high school, I was like on the math club and in speech and debate. But I was also in art honors. So this artistic side of me doing art honors, I was like, how am I going to be able to fulfill that niche in me? Mm-hmm. So that's why I went into mechanical. So unlike almost all of my cohorts, not saying that there isn't design in oil and gas, but I didn't go into oil and gas. Mm-hmm. So my intention was to be a mechanical designer doing fluid analysis or aerodynamics, and then doing the 3D. I always say it's a very expensive video game, like 3D computer aided design, CAD, right? And so that was my intention, was to be a designer so I could design stuff and use my creativity.
Okay, which would explain the titles earlier on in your history as mechanical designer.
Okay. Yeah, and I did a vibration analysis, fluids analysis, stress strain analysis, because it was just cool. There were funky colors, you could see things bending and moving, and it really filled my artistic bucket.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I love that. All right, ladies, listen up. So you started motorcycle racing.
Yeah.
You were working as a mechanical designer at this time.
Yes.
How did you make the leap from designer, motorcycle racer into being part of F1 racing teams?
So I wasn't part of F1 teams. I was part of teams that were feeder classes to F1.
Okay.
So think about it like junior hockey,
okay,
or AAA hockey before you get to the NHL.
Got it. Okay.
So the kids,
still high-performing teams.
Very high-performing teams. These kids wanted to get into Formula One. Their parents wanted to get them driving Formula One.
Okay.
So some of the guys that drive in F1 now, Carlos Sainz tested and drove a race with our team. Alex Albon was on our team. So we worked with some of the F1 drivers now when they were in their mid to late teens. Okay. So how it all happened was I started racing motorcycles. Then I imported a motorcycle from New Zealand. And like we were saying before, I don't even know how I figured out those logistics back then, but I knew that if I wanted to marry my career of mechanical engineering with this hobby that I had, I wanted to get more education. I wanted to hold a degree in it, and I needed credibility. So I imported this motorcycle that you needed to do work with. It's a GP, a Grand Prix 125 motorcycle, so a single cylinder. You had to change the cylinder every 500K, change the bottom end, which is the crank, what holds the piston and all this, every 1500K kilometers. So that's how I decided to prep myself for it, but I was in no rush. So when I started looking for universities, it was after 2 years of racing, and that's when I decided, I should do this. So I found, so you talk about like reaching out to people, and you talk about if I had read about Jess, maybe I wouldn't have talked to her. Well, ignorance is bliss, and I encourage people not to read about their mentors too much. So I emailed this super famous motorcycle dynamicist. Someone lent me, well, not someone, my former internship boss from Nortel lent me his book. Tony Foale is the guy who wrote the book. Kevin Caldwell was my boss at the time. And I emailed Tony and said, hey, dude, you do motorcycle dynamic workshops, like weekend workshops all over the world. I didn't see Canada on the list. Have you ever been to Canada? Are you interested? And what would it take for me to host you?
Oh.
So people came out of the woodwork from like central Canada all the way out west. I hosted 2 seminars, one in Vancouver and one in Calgary, and people were like, their minds were blown. And I'm like, Tony Foale's just staying at my house.
Casually over breakfast, we're kind of looking at each other sleepy eyes.
Just hanging out, And I didn't know how famous he was. I didn't know that he worked with John Surtees, the only person in the world that has won a top-level motorcycle and F1 championship. There are all of these things that ignorance is bliss. Like I said, you just invite this guy. So he started helping me find universities, and I started being more intentional about my motorcycle racing and started volunteering and helping out other teams, pulling wrenches, learning about setups and all of this. And that's what really jumped me out. So in 2007, I donated, sold, or burned almost everything I owned except for my house. And I moved to Basque Country to do a 1-year master's in motorsport race engineering.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that is what then launched you into this whole other...
Cars.
Wow.
Yeah, so now we're not talking 2 wheels, we're talking 4. And it's in Basque Country in northern Spain. And I had a huge history with the Basques because the Basques sailed to Newfoundland, Labrador, where my mom was from, way before Christopher Columbus and all of this kind of stuff. So I heard about this special culture. And I was looking at universities in Wales. English, Oxford Brookes, English, a PhD, and those were cars, and then a PhD in motorcycles in Italy. So I was like listening to CDs of Italian, and then Tony had told me about this 1-year master's in Basque Country. And I said, that's going to be a challenge and a half because no language, like I didn't know Spanish at the time, I knew French. And I said, I got to go there. I know it's going to be harder, but the history with these cultures and my newfie in me
calling
was
to your soul.
Yeah.
Very quickly, because I'm fascinated about learning an advanced degree in anything is already challenging.
Yeah.
If you even spoke the language a little bit, it would be challenging. Like I speak Dutch fluently, but if I were dropped into like a master's program or a PhD program in the Netherlands, I'd be like, I'm getting every fifth word.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you learn this advanced, I'm going to use the word mechanicry. I know that's not a word, but like this advanced knowledge in a language that you know nothing about. Like, how did that work?
Listen up, ladies. Are you tired of being told to be confident like a man? To be confident but not brash? To be compelling but not too talkative? To take up space but not too much? It is exhausting and impossible to follow the rules of the game that are supposed to help us show up more authentically, to feel more confident, and to be seen and valued in our work, because the rules of the game were never written for women. I am tired of this, and so I have got a game-changing workshop coming your way in early 2025. It is all about unlocking your authentic feminine confidence, the kind that naturally attracts promotions, raises, recognition, respect, without needing to practice gross male cocky energy or feeling like you're putting on a mask. Imagine feeling grounded and secure as you add your voice to the next group meeting. Imagine naturally attracting in recognition, respect, and opportunities. Imagine how good it will feel to own your voice, to share your power, and not spend the days afterwards worrying that you came across as too strong, too bossy, or too much. That's the power of true confidence, and I want to show you how to embody it. This workshop will be hosted live in early 2025, and the time is now to get on the wait list. Don't miss out on early bird registration and insider discounts that will only be shared with folks who have put their name on the wait list. So join the wait list now by going to amyvanmeel.com/confidence. It is time to stand in your power, babe. It is time to shine in your career. Sign up to the waitlist today.
So I almost went there in 2000 at the end of 2006 to do the masters in the fiscal year of 07, but they didn't have enough courses in English. So the courses weren't supposed to be in Spanish.
Oh, I see.
Now when I went there was probably two of the teachers that didn't have a very good command of English. Okay. So one of the aerodynamics instructors started firing off in Spanish, and I was looking at him like, oh my gosh. And then there was a guy from Belgium and another guy from France, and they kind of looked at me, because I was friends with the organizer of the Masters. Okay. They looked at me saying, are you going to bring this up with Buddy and make it fixed, please? I'm like, motherfuckers, like seriously? I have to do the heavy lifting at any rate. So I felt really bad, because what's going to happen? If he switches to English, he's going to do a disservice to the rest of the class. Right. Because he won't be able to explain shit. Mm-hmm. So how did I do it? There's a big ass English-Spanish technical dictionary, and that baby fucking lived on my desk, and I sat real close to the Belgium guy, and not so far from the other guy from France. Yeah. So it was super, super challenging. Wow. And these were levels of math that I hadn't done for over a decade. Like I was going back doing matrices and calculus and just happened to be these heavy math things were where the teachers didn't know English. Right. And it was challenging, but I just used that dictionary and just spent the extra time.
Wow. Yeah. As a quick aside, I love that I have like math people in my life. So my husband has a degree in physics from university. The only class in my life that I have I didn't technically fail because I dropped out before it happened, was physics.
because I tried to catch grade 11 and grade 12 physics all in the last year. I didn't realize that I was thinking about becoming a physiotherapist, and you needed to have physics to do that. And the way that the courses were scheduled, grade 12 physics was the first term, grade 11 physics was the second term.
Oh, crapola.
Yeah. So another friend of mine who's also, like, we were A students. We were very, very, very good students. She and I both were trying to do the same thing. The physics class was a small class.
Yeah.
There was like 15 of us maybe, and we were the only 2 girls in the class.
Wow.
And everybody else in the class were like solid BC students. So I mean, you see us come in, and there's this assumption, well, the girls are going to totally get this because they're like, we both dropped out because we could not fucking keep up.
Wow.
And then it turned out I went into interior design, and I didn't need physics, which is sort of weird that you wouldn't need physics to go into architecture, but we did it. And then when I met Dave, I found out that he had a university degree in physics. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, the only class in my life that I never made it. And now, so when you're talking about like advanced math, I'm like, of course I have. Into advanced math. I want to talk a little bit about like how big was the class, and how many women were in the class?
That was team of 1. I was the only woman.
Yeah.
I was the second woman through the program, the first North American through the program, the first Canadian through the program. I would say there was only about 15 master's students when we were there. We did our master's at the race team's shop.
Ooh.
So our class was on this mezzanine second level, looking onto all the cars and the mechanics working on the cars. And so it was a very special hybrid kind of master. So I only stepped onto the foot of the university where I have the degree from, maybe twice when we went to go do some...
Once to enroll, once to graduate?
Yeah, no, not even. I didn't even go to the university to graduate. We had our whole ceremony at the race car team shop, and it was fabulous. But yeah, so there was one girl the year ahead of me.
Okay.
And I don't know whether there was another girl. There was not another girl the year after me, but oh yeah, there was. And the last year that they did it, I don't think there was a woman in them. But yeah, very, like, there were no other race engineers, even in the team, that were women.
Let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, I don't care who you are and how progressive you are. If you talk about race teams or race engineering, I think our immediate image that we have is all men.
Absolutely.
This could take us forever, but like, what was it like, I suppose, standing in this very male-dominant industry, coming up in this industry?
Yeah.
And not just, I mean, I want to paint a little bit of a picture. I think there is one of the things that men have in abundance that women often have less of is physical stature.
Yeah.
Which seems like it shouldn't matter, but it matters. So you're 5'2", I'm 5'8". I often feel like I'm entirely too big, right? And I don't know if there's ever times where you're like, I feel like I'm entirely too small, but like you are in this like...
Yeah, the top shelves in my kitchen are empty.
Correct. You have a little step stool. But like, you're not just stepping into this very male-dominant industry. You also have a smaller physical presence.
Yep.
How did that all...
visible minority in this, right? So my mom was from Newfoundland. She was white. My dad was from Trinidad. So I have this beautiful cappuccino color as well. Yeah. And even in some of the places where I was at, there was very underlined, subtle, not so subtle racism happening as well. Like, a bunch of teams calling me Pocahontas.
Wow.
Yeah. And being small, it's like you don't have that credibility. So this is the reason why I bought that motorcycle, that I had to do mechanic work on it.
Right.
This is why when the motorcycle arrived to Calgary, it went directly into my living room so I could start building my own motors, assembling my own motors. And I had to show this to people when I got to the different race teams. So you ask, like, how do you do that? So, we're all doing this with the safety of these 14 to 17-year-old drivers in mind.
Right.
And I'm not saying that yours is wrong. I'm saying consider maybe this way.
Right.
Right. So even when you're suggesting things, you have to start testing language. Yeah. Right. So
I would imagine that nearly every woman in the world has, it comes to mind that line from My Big Fat Greek Wedding. You know, the man may be the head, but the woman is the neck. And it really is that sort of, like, I'm going to say massaging. I think manipulative is what people would like to jump to, but I think it's this massaging, guiding kind of way that you have to like softly kind of go, okay, like what you just said. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but consider possibly this, or have you thought about this? And it's so, I don't know if it's like, is it fragile male ego? Is it that they just are like, well, what does a woman know about this? And it could be a billion different things.
Yeah, and it works with the women as well. So if there was any woman on the team, or I've had women drivers, I've had women mechanics, but I'm usually the same. I try to go for that I go for the collaborative approach as opposed to a dictator type style. It's like, okay, well, what can we work together? What is the reason behind that you do this? How did you come to that conclusion that doing it this way was that way? Because I usually did it this way. So let's find the pros and cons. So that's how I would approach things. Very systematically, but very collaboratively.
Yeah. So it's a we, not an I, you.
Yeah, and it's not me above you.
Right.
Right.
Oh, I love that.
So, and even when I was in corporate, when I came back after doing so I was 5.5 years in Europe as a freelance motorsport race engineer, professional formula driving coach, mindset coach, doing all the data, doing the tire strategies, fuel strategies, team strategies, all this. And when I came back to go back into corporate land, just over 10 years ago, it's almost, how can you humbly drop your experience without sounding arrogant?
Right.
But that was a great way to demand respect as well. Right? So just casually, well, you know, when I was in Silverstone in England and I was engineering these cars, our teamwork looked like this. Right? So not a lot of people can have those kind of examples.
Yeah. You're name dropping, but like quietly.
Just gently.
Interesting.
But it really gives you that respect. And once you give examples of collaboration where you meet someone where they are, they realize that, holy Dinah, like you aren't that arrogant. I'm here, I've done all of this.
Yeah.
Screw you little guys. Like I even noticed that while I was getting my promotions in Honeywell, a couple of my colleagues, and I was like so humbled to hear this. They're like, Jess, your title, like you've risen in this company so fast to be this global engineering director, you know, but you'll just come and have lunch with me still. I'm like, well, why wouldn't I?
Right, I'm no different like, just because my job title is different.
It's just that, right?
Yeah.
But I guess a lot of, like, the fact that comment came to me means that that's not the norm. And as people get higher, they tend to get this higher than you. So that was, you asked about my strategies about how to get that. It was just, how can I be as relatable as possible?
Yeah.
And be very confident in that relatable way. Like you still have to exude authority.
Yeah.
Because I've been on the other end of it where I was too friendly with a bunch of mechanics, a team that I worked on, and I asked them, okay, let's set up lasers. And they were like, oh, well, we did the measurements with these, like, you know, really fine millimeter rules, and do we really have to? And it was because we were just too buddy-buddy.
Yeah.
And if it was anyone else, they would have had those fucking lasers out in a second.
Right.
And I made them do it, but it's like, oh, okay, this is
it should have been an automatic response.
This is a learning moment for me, because I truly believe that you teach people how to treat you, and that's what I did.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I want to touch on that very quickly. So when I haven't done any kind of engineering at all, and I don't have an engineer's mind, but I worked in tech, as I mentioned before we sat down, and I did very, very well. I excelled. I got 2 promotions in less than 2 years. I was just like kind of rocketing up. And it was so interesting to me. The first promotion, I was leading the frontline team. Mm-hmm. So I was a step up, air quotes, you know, but still relatable, approachable. As I hit my next promotion, now I was leading an international team. I had like 40 people who were reporting into me.
Wow.
It was very, very cool. But it was the first time I noticed people became afraid to talk to me. And I would endeavored to guess that part of that is I was this rising star that was moving so quick. So now my reputation was starting to go in front of me. But what was getting lost was the fact that, like, I don't care who you are. If you want to have a conversation, I'm always down for an actual open, genuine conversation. And to color this in, and this is, I've said this to people who've reported to me all along, and I say this to friends, it has a different weight when if it's coming from like someone who you report into than like a friend of you, just like have a conversation. But like, I always encourage people to reach out to, if they're interested to learn from or talk with somebody, I don't care what their fucking job title is or what level they're at, reach out to them. The worst they can do is either ignore you or say no.
Yep.
And I've heard lots of people respond with, well, but like, they're so busy. Listen, to get to that level, they've had to learn how to take responsibility for their time. If they don't have time to talk to you, they will just tell you.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It allowed me to, I sat down with the director, like she was like 3 levels above me when I was like 6 months into being a lead, the very first time I was leading a team.
Beautiful.
And I was so nervous when I sat down, and she was probably the perfect person to be like my first kind of meeting. I was so nervous. When we sat down and literally opened the meeting, was like, oh my God, I thought you were blonde. I don't know why that. I said that to Dave, and he was like, why would you say that? I'm like, I don't know. I lost all control of my senses.
Fine. So what made you reach out to her specifically?
I really loved when I would see her in like group calls. I loved how her energy was. She seemed warm and genuine. She really seemed to think strategically. It also helped. My lead at the time was also an absolute fucking powerhouse. Like she was, I could not have been better set up.
And I'm hearing she.
Yes, there are a lot of women in my story. And she encouraged me to reach out. I was like, I'd really love to sit down and talk with her. Ashley was the name of her director. I'd really love to sit down and talk with Ashley. I'm kind of curious. And she's like, so why haven't you booked a meeting with her? I'm like, because it's Ashley. Like, I can't. She's like, Ashley already knows who you are. Do you think I'm not talking about you all the time? And I'm like, she does.
And when did this occur? Like, when did
this would have been 2020, so
it was
4 years ago.
Yeah, but it was how long into, sorry, I should have been more specific. How long into your current job were you when you started reaching out?
I was maybe 6 months.
Nice.
Maybe 6 months.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done it in the first 3 months because I was drowning. I was learning so fast. I had a brand new team, 13 people. It was a giant team for like one person of all brand new employees to like try to navigate through. So the first 3 months was just survival, making it through. And then the next 3 months was a lot of like growing and building my skill and starting to like feel confident in my role. And she was amazing. And like one of the things, so what I try to relate, and I'm going to relate this specifically to the podcast because I want more people to hear this. When you're asking for that meeting for someone, it could be like you mentioned, Tony's like, global superstar, and people are like, oh my God, you just reach it. Have respect for their time, be clear with your ask, and have an intent.
Yeah.
As opposed to going, I just want to sit down for coffee. If someone says to me like, well, I just want to sit down for coffee, I'm like, well, what do you want to talk about? Like, what are you interested in?
Yeah.
What do you want to learn from me? Right? Because I have a high degree of respect for my time. I think most leaders and high-performing people really do.
Absolutely.
And because of that respect, if you approach the ask with respect and say, hey, I'd love to sit down and chat with you about one or two, three things, or to ask you about these things. Yeah. I learned a tremendous amount. And then I remember about, maybe a year. Nope, wasn't even a year later. I was still a team lead at the time. I hadn't turned in my next promotion yet. And I remember the look on now at this point I was reporting into a guy, which is important. Not because he was anything wrong, but like I had been led by a number of like really amazing women, and I had these connections with these women that I was starting to build. And I wanted to reach out to, what was his level at the time? He was like the vice president of customer support. Like he was like, basically reporting directly into the CEO.
Yeah.
And like we're like, the company was like 14,000 people. It's global. And like, and I reached out to him and said, I have some follow-up questions from this town hall that we just had. would you have time to sit down and chat with me? And he was like, sure, like reach out to my assistant. She'll get it all planned out.
Nice.
So we booked 20 minutes and like, again, that respect for time. I keep an eye on the clock because I want to make sure I'm respectful. Yeah. Our conversation went 45 minutes because it was so good. And I was like, I'm so sorry.
And it's because you started it with intention, right?
Correct.
And it's like what you said earlier. Leaders, people who get to the high places, they manage their time.
Yes.
You know, and it was the same thing when I was director at Honeywell. Like I was interacting, doing one slide for a bigger slide presentation that went to C-suite, you know, and those kind of things, like you have to respect someone's time because they are so strapped.
Yeah.
And the only way, or not the only way, but one of the best ways is to set intentions. So setting an agenda for a meeting or whatever it is, right? This is like, this helps both parties.
Yeah. And keep the ask small. I think that's the last thing I would say is like, you know, leverage the ask as something like, would you have 20 minutes to meet with me? Most people can find 20 minutes in their day.
Yeah.
But then do keep an eye on the clock and don't like, and another thing, and another thing, and another, you know, like sometimes in my experience, the conversations generally have been so full. And I mean, one of my special skills is being able to ask really, really good, amazing questions. The amount of times I've heard people go, actually, that's a great question. I have no idea.
Me that. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I've learned. I'm like, well, that's my special skill. The conversation can go longer.
Sure.
But I haven't gone in with the intent to be there for 90 minutes.
Right.
So I really love that.
That's interesting. I do a whole workshop, actually. I do workshops at the University of Calgary. I'd like to do them at other universities in their engineering leadership programs. So I have all sorts of different leadership skills that I'm teaching. And one of them is exactly what you were talking about, your journey as you were doing these steps up. And I tell these engineers, like, understand what's it going to feel like when your first promotion is that you're going to be the boss of your former peers. And what does that look like dynamically as well, right? So it's very curious and understanding the more that you reach out to different people in a company or mentors and all this kind of stuff, the more that you reach out there, the more information you're going to get to be equipped and the more tools that you'll have to be equipped to still have authority around people that were your peers before.
Yeah, well, talking about, we touched on mirror neurons before we started recording, which is like, I just love. And for those of you who don't know, mirror neurons it's a chemical process, I think, in the brain that is built where we will mirror what another person is doing. It's how we learn, it's how we sort of like pick up language and all kinds of things. When you're sitting down with those leaders, it's not just the conversation. If you're paying attention, and this is why like it's good to go with, I mean, sometimes your brain is just going to blurt out, I thought you were blonde. Like, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. But like, pay attention to how they speak. How do they respond?
Yeah.
How do they say things to you? I don't think I necessarily was like consciously thinking about it, but as I moved up in different levels of my role, I noticed that I would echo how they would say something, where it was like being very careful and intentional with their words, so that they would land clearly.
Yeah.
And when we start to step into those spaces of like leading our peers, I think I'm gonna call us out, ladies. I think women have a harder time with this, where we want to be liked.
Yeah.
And we think that being liked equates to being respected.
Yeah.
And those do not.
Yeah.
And understanding that there is the delineation between the two, and being willing to be unliked so long as you are respected is a fucking hard line to walk.
You bring me back to when I worked for this one race car team, and for the first 2 months, all the mechanics hated me. The mechanics hated me because now this is it's a triggering comment, because some people, as I talk about the story, some people don't take it people take it in a different ways.
Right.
So one of the bosses, and I always say, thank you very much, Timo, for doing this, because other people might have taken big offense to it, but he said, you need to turn down your Canada.
Oh.
Yeah.
Specifically meaning,
too much please and thank you. They think you're an ass kisser They don't respect you. They don't think you're genuine.
Right.
Right? And I'm very genuine about it, but I could see that it was so different from their culture. And this was a German race car team, and they were fabulous, right? But it was like, okay, so I can go and say 2 degrees on that car, 3 liters in that car. I'm pursing my lips right now. I realize we're on a podcast. And then turn around and don't say like that, please and thank you. Or I started learning German and just saying bitte.
Oh.
Just really low key, not like, thanks a lot, guys. You know, like how I usually would be. And in Canada, that actually brings up the whole energy.
It does.
But with certain of the mechanics, they were like, actually, I do better work when I'm a little bit more in my culture. And it's funny because some people took that comment of, can you turn down the Canada, when I talk to other people doing interviews and stuff, or when I do it on my keynotes, I can see people's change of what they're looking at because, well, what are they trying to impose their culture on you? I'm in their team.
Right.
It's called cultural awareness.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I get it. It's not like they're trying to whitewash my Canada out of me.
Yes.
Because I will always have that. I will always have the super nice, outgoing Newfie side to me as well, you know? Mm-hmm. And at the same time, it just means that you have to meet people where they're at. So that whole not being liked, make no mistake, I was in Oschersleben at the hotel of this tiny little track, and that's where I lived for, a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And I was on Skype with my mom to say, everyone hates me. I just have to remember how kick-ass I am. And she's like, yeah, you're kick-ass. You're a good person. Don't you worry about it. Yes. What feedback have you got back? And I was like, turn down the Canada. She's like, well, really think about where you are then. Think about your context. Like my mom was my life coach. She was fucking ridiculous, next level human being.
Yeah.
And that really helped me, but it was so interesting to be able to take that, not take it personally, put action on it, and by the end it was hugs and high fives.
Right. I actually love, the part that I love the most, I think, about that story is the fact that they said, turn down the Canada, as opposed to, Jess, you need to be less nice. You need to be less, I can't think
bubbly?
of Yeah, bubbly. Think of like anything that women have been called, less friendly, whatever. Like, yeah. I love that it's turned down the Canada because that wouldn't matter what gender you are or
Correct.
Like what color you are.
That's right.
It's part of just Canadian culture. It's why I think so much of the world thinks like, the Canadians are rollovers. No, they're not, but they are very polite.
Well, and then I thought, Jesus, same team that called me Pitbull, maybe I turned it down too much. And then I have this lovely colleague that happened to work on the team as well, and he was Canadian, and we were laughing about the Pitbull thing because there were times where it was just kind of him and I, being the bond of trying not to be too outsiders, but sometimes you've got your allies, right?
Yeah.
And he started calling me Little Sarge, and it was so funny because it was his tongue-in-cheek, like, you jackass, but it was good. Like, some people could really take that as a pat on the top of the head, oh, Little Sarge, but no, it was all with this whole level of respect.
Yeah.
And it's incredible how verbiage can be taken so differently with or without respect. Mm-hmm. Some things would have been demeaning, would have been dismissive, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But when that same person is doing strategy sessions with you about tires or about fuel or this or that, and you guys are really speaking on a technical equal playing field, that changes the whole energy of being called Little Sarge.
Yeah, and you can read people's just like the energy, the body language, even if they were saying everything like the words they were saying were respectful, but the tone or the way they were physically standing, moving, being around you, like you can read that. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about mentorship. So I'm pulling my notes here. You can't see me, but I'm reading off a piece of paper. I love the little, I don't want to say little, let me take that out. I love the docuseries Behind the Helmet. Mm-hmm. I watched the episode that you were on.
Wonderful.
Which was fantastic. And in it you said, actively finding mentors is something that I wish I knew when I was younger.
Yeah. You
talked about your mom a little bit. We've talked about approaching leaders. talk to me a bit about like, what does a mentor look like to you?
So a mentor for me looks like someone who's experienced similar challenges, someone who's faced the same adversity that I'm about to or am currently facing.
Okay.
Right? So it didn't have to be contextually. And it's great that you brought up my mom, because my mom was trained as a nurse, a psych nurse. So she taught a lot about emotional intelligence ever since I was little, and then a burns nurse. But she could do anything in a house. Like, she did a bunch of construction stuff, and she was a nurse. So she didn't have the contextual stuff that I was looking for business advice as I was moving up in a company, or even when I got laid off at first and I was making my own company and being this freelance cowgirl design engineer, working for 8 months, not working for 8 months. Like, she was my mentor going through that as the life coach side of things.
Right.
However, if I had known that there could have been a VP or a director, a lady VP or director within a company that I was in, that I could have reached out similar to what you did, right? In my 20s after university, this would have been a game changer, I think, in some ways as well. Now, like we talked about before, all the grit and all the resilience and all the firsts and this and that I had to go through made me who I am and brought me to where I was. But my first internship job I was the first woman in a group of 35 men at Nortel Networks in 1997.
Wow.
And I didn't necessarily understand the understanding that I have now. No, dude, go pick up an org chart and go hunting.
Yes.
You know, like,
Find somebody somewhere.
I never did that. So I didn't have the same amount of business coaches, you know, as I could have. And even now, I'm 50 years old, and I'm still keeping an eye out for different mentors for some of the stuff that I'm looking at. But now I know what I'm looking for. So we'll go back to your question. What am I looking for in a mentor? It's not just accomplishments, but it's the vibe coming from someone.
Yeah.
Right? So, and make no mistake, it's okay if I meet someone and I'm like, holy shitballs, you're more cutthroat than is landing in my value system, but I'd still love to chat. To understand, for me, where would that style land?
Right.
So I'm really of the point, my mom taught me this, of the point, it doesn't matter even if you don't resonate with someone who's in a leadership position, it's still going to be worth having that 20-minute chat.
Right. And I actually want to pull on that a little bit. So I think that and I know actually, like, in my mind, the vision of the relationship with a mentor is an ongoing thing. But actually, you could sit down one time with a person in this context of them being a mentor to you. So it doesn't have to be that it's this long-term sort of ongoing thing either.
Right. I consider that even brief learning points as mentorship.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between, you know, the mentor and a leader or a coach, right? Usually you're looking at mentors, and it was funny because I was talking about the difference between having a boss or a mentor, right? Because a lot more companies now have mentorship programs, and the mentorship programs are that if I was your mentor, for example, you're doing the work, I'm not.
Yeah.
Right? So this is one of the biggest, I think, shifts when it comes to being a mentor. So your gift of being able to ask kick-ass questions lends that lens to being an excellent mentor, because your job is to make someone think. Your job as a mentor is to push someone's limits. So as soon as you have your box that you're in about your belief system, your values, as soon as you're making that box bigger is when the growth happens, and is when things like, oh yeah, maybe I could go do a master's in motorsports and go work in Europe when I've got no background in this. It's because I had to make my box bigger. But it's mentors that can help make that box bigger by pushing you.
Right. I love that you just wrote the sales copy for working with me on a one-on-one basis. I didn't pay to say that, everybody.
But it's true.
Yes,
right?
it is true.
This is the method.
Yeah. On that note, just quickly, so the other question that I wanted to ask was how do you suggest finding mentors? I think we've circled on that a little bit. what I want to maybe touch on a little bit is, so mentorship is, I suppose the way I look at it, it's like an access point to someone else's wisdom and knowledge.
Absolutely. I agree.
So all those times when I met with the directors or I met with the VP or I met with all these different leaders and wanted to ask, unknowingly at the time, like I don't think I realized and had it framed in my mind as a mentorship, because I still had this like framework of, well, mentors are someone that's ongoing. When I had my design business, when I started my design business here in Calgary, during my research of like, because everybody says like, if you're going to launch a business, you need to research the competition, which is not something that I tell people now, because I actually find that it becomes a massive hurdle that I have to overcome of like, but oh my God, all these people are doing it so amazingly. Now, that said, I did find this woman that I was very, very intrigued by. I knew the value of mentorship. I reached out to her just like out of the fucking blue.
Excellent.
And was like, hey, I'm a new designer in Calgary. I've just started my business. Would you be open to having a conversation with me? I'd like to pick your brain and understand a bit more. What I love, now, you can read energy without ever having met somebody.
Sure.
You can read it through their webpage, through their words, through their work. Like you can read that. So you'll intuitively know. She didn't come back to me and go, why the fuck would I help you? You're going to be my competition.
Yeah.
She goes, yep, totally happy to do that. Little tight on time. Can you circle back with me in 3 weeks? Yep, I can do that. Make a mark on the calendar, come back. And I met with her maybe only 3 times over the length that I had my business. And I had it for about 6 years.
Wow.
But like one of the conversations I remember that was really helpful, I was, I think it was navigating like a really big project. I was getting ready to like submit my design proposal. Here's what it's going to be. And I wanted to get her take on what might I be missing? What might I not know about?
Yeah.
And so she just walked through like, okay, so in past when I've done this, here's the things that I would consider. Here's what I would look at.
Sure.
Ask me some great questions with like this amazing open space of she's not competing with me. I'm not competing with her. Here, let's bring this together.
Common craft.
Yeah, I suppose like...
It's that non-competition. That's the deal about collaboration.
Yeah.
Is that it's not an us and them.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's what I love so much about mentorship. All right. I have another question related to that series. And again, I'm going to pull up my little like piece of paper in case you can hear it in the background. We're using different microphones today, so it picks up a lot more in the background noise. In the same series, the Behind the Helmet series, which I'm going to post in the show notes. I'll put the link in the show notes so people can like check it out. You called out, this was my favorite thing, the continual use of the pronoun he while you were talking with a racing organization. And I love that you said you are subliminally telling young girls that they are not part of this.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
So the conversation went like this. If we grid up the racers and we're trying to do these steps in organizing or whatever it was, there's going to be a couple of racers that do that. Then he's going to do this. Then the racer that's going to have this situation, he's going to do this. And it was always he. Always he. He's going to set up his tent. We're going to let those guys set up their tents over here. So it was always just this he. Mm-hmm. And what I said to them, I said, okay, this is a learning moment. Do you have any sisters? Do you have any nieces or nephews? Do you have any friends that have small girls? And can you imagine if they were in the room right now, an 8-year-old little girl is going to think that she's not part of the reindeer games.
She doesn't belong.
She doesn't belong. And I said, how ridiculous, and it shouldn't be, how ridiculous would it be if I just start using the pronoun she all the time? All the time.
Yeah.
Right? That would blow people's brains. Yeah, so you imagine I'm in a race car team. Okay, so we're going to have like 3 racers doing this, and she's going to use this gearbox, and, like talking hypothetically.
Yeah.
So we're going to use this gearbox for her car, and that gearbox for her car, and that gearbox for her car. Do I have a team of all-girl racers? No. But what if I just did that?
Yeah.
What if I just did that and said she all the fucking time?
Right.
It would sound bizarre. Why? There's no good reason why that should sound bizarre if using he is okay for all the time.
Correct.
And that's that subliminal messaging that make women not even go into a sport.
Yeah.
So I remember hearing from, and this broke my heart. It was a high school in Calgary. This gal was wanting to go into engineering with the intention of going into motorsports, and her teacher in Calgary, less than a year ago, said, women don't do that. Women don't do that. You know how hard it's going to be if you try to do that?
Oh my goodness gracious. I hope you have been enjoying this conversation as much as I enjoyed having it when Jess and I sat down with our microphones. This is only part 1 of a 3-part series. We recorded nearly 3 hours of, like, every single minute is super high value, really intentional conversation, knowledge sharing, wisdom sharing, and I have more coming for you. So be sure to be checking in every week. They're going to be dropping over the next few weeks, and I cannot wait to have you listen to the next few. Just as a little teaser, I believe that part 2, because I'm now fully immersed in part 1, starts with a little discussion about common gendered language and how Jess specifically has been working to remove the word guys from her common addressing language, as in, hey guys, let's do this. It's a topic I'm very passionate about. We kick off part 2 with that, and of course we dive into even more. So definitely check out part 2 when it drops in just another week. If you love this episode, please let me know by leaving a review on the podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. I will link Jess's Instagram account in the show notes as well. So if you want to go find her on Instagram, go give her a follow. She's relatively new to Instagram, so don't be alarmed if you get there and she doesn't have as many followers as you might think. We've chatted about that as well. So it would be awesome to see her audience grow. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this episode inspired you, please share it out. We want to get more knowledge and wisdom like this into the hands of more women. With that, I wish you an absolutely amazing week ahead, and I'm super looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. Bye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you loved what you heard today, be sure to share it with me by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform and help me reach more like-minded people who are ready to expand their life. If you haven't yet followed me on social media, find me on Instagram for extra love and inspiration by following @AmyVanMeal or visit my website at amyvanmeal.com. I love you so much, babe, and I am damn proud of you. I am already excited to connect in the next episode. And in the meantime, believe in yourself with the confidence of a 5-year-old.